Okay, we've got another 2,000 point game today. My army list here has Striking Scorpions for elites. The Exarch has the Scorpion's Claw, and they have both powers. We've got a full-size squad of Wraith Guard as troops, led by a Farseer. They've got a Spirit Seer with Conceal. We've got Rangers. We've got 3 Warwalkers with double star cannons. We've got a full-size Harlequin squad. We've got a 15-strong Guardian squad with a missile launcher, Wraith Lord, who actually has a Bright Lance despite the fact that it's missing, and a Wraith Seer, because we're going to test him out again with a Wraith Wall, see how he works out.
In this army, I started out building it around Pedro Cantor as my special character, followed up with an Honor Guard with a Chapter Champion. They'll be coming on the board in the Storm Raven that also has an Assault Dreadnought with Assault Cannon. I have a 10-man Assault Squad kitted out with Power Fist and 3 Plasma Pistols. I have a Devastator Squad with 2 missile launchers, 6 men total. I have 2 tactical squads. Each tactical squad are kitted out with a Veteran Sergeant with Power Fist and Storm Bolter. They both have Flamers and Heavy Bolters. Each tactical squad also has a drop pod, and the drop pod has the Big Boom Deathwind missile launcher. I also have a Stern Guard veteran unit, and they will also be coming on the board with a drop pod, of which I do not have, so I'll be using the stand-in for that. That's my story. I'm sticking to it.
So this is our deployment setup. Charles doesn't have a lot on the field. I was forced to have all of my stuff on the field because of the mobile defense rules. I didn't have any units that were allowed to be held in reserve, which actually would have been forced to hold in reserve. The units that I have are forced onto the table. So on a 4 and up, I go first. On a 1, 2, or 3, Charles will be going first. It is a 4. I will be going first. All I managed to do this turn was kill off half of the assault squad here, or 4 guys out of it, and I spread my army out. Most of my shooting was ineffective. The D-cannon shot was short. Everything else had too short a range. Only the star cannons really did anything. I managed to kill 1 guy in the far building there with a sniper. That's it.
Okay, so my turn. I dropped my drop pod here with my Stern Guard, and they ended up rapid firing over at those Harlequins, and they did abysmally, killing only 2 Harlequins when they should have killed many, many more if we played the odds. Dropped another drop pod over there, and out came a tactical squad, which aptly decimated the near entirety of that Guardian squad. Actually, Dan, you want to roll your...
Yeah, I'm holding the camera at the moment. Okay, I'll do that right after.
They may or may not break and run off the table. There's only 2 guys left, the Heavy Weapons Platform and the Warlock. I moved flat out with my Storm Raven, and he is now hiding behind a bunker, hoping that that D-cannon from the Wraith Seer does it, or whatever the Dreadnought thingy. I fucking hate Eldar.
You did manage to do 2 wounds on it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And I shot at that with my missile launchers from my Devastator squad. Did 2 wounds. My Assault Marines tried to enact vengeance on the Warwalkers, managed to immobilize 1, and they retaliated by stepping on one of my Assault Marines and killing me. I think there's a good bet that that will probably get killed pretty quickly next turn. So that's it.
And that's pretty much it. Now it's on to Charles.
Okay, so I started off this turn by failing my reserve roll for the tactical squad. I had my Storm Raven swoop around here, drop off my command unit and my Chapter Master, as well as the Dreadnought. the Dreadnought ended up opening up on the Guardian squad that was left over, wiped out both the Warlock and the remaining Guardian with the heavy weapon. My tactical squad continued running. I opened up with the Deathwind missile launcher from this drop pod. Did 2 casualties on the Striking Scorpions. I also used the Deathwind missile launcher on the Rangers, doing no damage. My command squad then proceeded to assault the Harlequins, doing 5 wounds. They failed their ring test and they started running. So my highly expensive command squad actually did something cool. Yay. This Walker gangbang killed my last veteran sergeant from my assault squad, and that was the end of my turn.
Okay, I had a pretty good turn this turn. My Warwalkers here managed to finish off the squad that had been right about there. It was just a couple guys. I got just enough wounds to wipe them out. The Bright Lance on the Wraith Lord did nothing to the drop pod, and the Wraith Guard there, combined with the fire from the Rangers, managed to wipe out Charles's command squad that had poured out of the Raven. All the shots together, I had enough AP2 damage to do exactly enough wounds to kill. Other than that, the Scorpions managed to knock the gun off of the drop pod, so it's essentially not really all that important to the game anymore. But he still has a Dreadnought and a Storm Raven running around my territory, and some guys over there, and a drop pod coming, so a lot more to come.
So I'm going to make this my final turn. In fact, I only have one more scoring unit coming out, and I'm kind of running out of infantry. So I had my Storm Raven swing around, and my Dreadnought kind of walked over, and that was the extent of my movement. I then fired my Deathwind missile launcher, my Dreadnought, and every goddamn weapon on the Storm Raven at the Wraith Guard, killing 1 Wraith Guard. That's including all 4 of my missiles from the Storm Raven. I then proceeded to charge my Dreadnought into the Wraith Guard, and the Farseer killed it on the charge with Witchblade by penetrating once and rolling a 5. Thereby making the total number of points killed in this turn being far more for Dan than it was for me. So with that, I'm going to call this because I just have one more drop pod with a tactical squad, and he has enough everything to kill those with no problem. So that's a wrap.
Okay.
So with this game, I chose to have a very kind of drop pod, assault-heavy army. Didn't really have a lot of heavy weapons, which actually probably should have countered pretty well to his lack of vehicles. Got to learn a lot about assault. My command squad did really, really well against those Harlequins. I was kind of surprised that the Storm Raven survived as long as it did. Problem is the Storm Raven combined with the command squad with the Dreadnought is just so expensive that the kind of core of my army was very weak. I mean, I had 2 tactical squads and a Stern Guard squad. I probably should have gone with not having the Stern Guard, because the Stern Guard in a drop pod is also quite expensive. So I kind of had high value units, and I don't know. It was an interesting game. Learned a lot about assault.
I had kind of a weird army list. It was essentially all infantry. I did have the Warwalkers, but they're just a walker unit. I really wanted to test out the Wraithseer with this list, and the Wraithseer didn't do anything except die. I didn't make a single save with him, and Charles managed to wound every time he hit him. So I didn't really get a great feel for him. I was using foreboding a lot, but Charles never shot at the units that I put it on. So he did a good thing of just sort of ignoring the beefed up units I had to go for the lighter stuff. Charles really rolled poorly on his initial Alpha Strike with the drop pods. The fact that he only killed 2 Harlequins at point blank range with Stern Guard squad kind of says it all. Outside of that, the Warwalkers were probably my unit of the game. They managed to take out 2 squads, essentially, finishing off a tactical squad that would have auto-rallied the next turn. So they kind of helped me out quite a bit, even though they had star cannons, which most people simply don't take anymore. I hate drop pods, and I was not able to do anything to the Storm Raven at all, but luckily most of its firepower went to my Wraith Guard, and with Fortune and Conceal, he really didn't get a chance to do much to him. Okay?